And Bob, related to this, in terms of targeting BRCA, Judy touched on one drug, but I want to focus a little bit on that because therapeutic results are what a lot of people want to hear about. How would you say ultimately that we will be able to use what we learn about stem cells to actually develop better therapies, and how will we know when we're really getting there? And I ask that question, of everybody because we have lots of drugs that seem to be effective for a while against lots of cancers.
Well, there's different ways to answer those questions, and of course I'm glad you asked them. Let's talk about the stem cells, the bad guys in a tumor, and the non-stem cells. It turns, and the bad guys, remember, the cancer stem cells are tumor-initiating cells. It turns out that the stem cells in a breast cancer are much more resistant to most conventional forms of therapy than are the non-stem cells. So if you treat a breast cancer with some of the conventional therapies, the non-stem cells, which constitute the great majority, shrink and disappear, but this small subpopulation of tumor-initiating cells, of cancer stem cells, survives simply because they're intrinsically more resistant to being killed by the chemotherapeutic agent. And Charlotte Kupperwasser, who's here from Tufts, also studies this issue. So this dictates that if we want to really have a durable clinical response, if not a cure of a cancer, what we have to do is get rid of the bad guys, which are intrinsically more resistant. And so a number of different groups throughout the country are now looking for drugs that specifically target the cancer stem cells, the bad guys, because if we can wipe them out, in principle, we're wiping out these subversive cells in the middle of the tumor. Some people have said, well, if you get rid of the cancer stem cells, the tumor as a whole will collapse. But I think it's more complicated than that. I think we need to have one drug to get rid of the cancer stem cells and another one to get rid of the non-stem cells, the majority population, the good guys. Well, relatively good guys.
Maybe the infantry and the general.
The infantry and the general. Why do I think that? Because we now know that if you look at the non-stem cells, the better guys, the infantry, some of them can spontaneously revert and become bad guys. And if you get rid of all the cancer stem cells, some of the surviving infantry can go back and create new cancer stem cells. And so, to my mind, we now have a clear path to understand that we need to get rid of both classes of cells. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have said that. I couldn't have said that because we didn't understand how the dynamics of what governs the cancer stem cells in a tumor and the non-stem cells. But now this is moved into clear view. So it's not the case that this field of research is stuck in the mud. Really, there are every year new conceptual revolutions, some of which I believe are going to have very heavy impact on the new kinds of therapy we can anticipate coming online over the next 5 to 10 years. Not to 50 or 100 years, the next 5 to 10 years.